Hey friend, are you struggling with chronic illness symptoms that just won't go away, and you've gotten to a point where it feels like maybe no one can understand your symptoms or what you're going through, even when they try? Do your parents, family, or friends subtly or directly imply that they don't really think you're dealing with anything, and maybe you're just overly sensitive and this will go away if you just choose to stop obsessing over it? Or are you tired of explaining your symptoms or what your day-to-day life is like to your family or friends who maybe truly care about you and won't devalidate you, but they have no idea how to respond or be with you other than, I'm sorry you're going through that, and maybe you feel a little bit more alone than before you even tried to share anything? Or have you sat in the doctor's office hoping someone would finally understand what you were trying to say, and you're met with blank stares and no answers? If you said yes to any of these questions, this episode is for you. Today's episode begins our series exploring the emotional weight of chronic illness. We're not talking protocols, no strategies, not even trying to fix you. In this series, I'm going to be sharing things that anchored me on my journey towards wholeness emotionally, even in seasons where I felt like, or literally was, making zero progress. The goal is simple: to slow down and talk about the matters of our heart, to sit together for a moment and reflect with who you are right now, not some future healed version of yourself. How do you tend your heart right now? How do you find emotional and internal health? Because you don't have to be physically healthy to first find emotional health. In today's episode, we're going to be diving into why chronic illness can feel lonely, even when you're surrounded by loving people, tips on what to do with people who are not loving or supportive on your health journey, examples of two people in the Bible who hit a I can take it no longer moment in their life, how they responded, and what lessons we can learn from it. Hint, they don't respond in a super great way, and it's beautiful. And practical steps to take to combat chronic illness, loneliness, with or without the support of your immediate friends or family. If you've been doing everything you know how to get healthy and you're still not better, I hope this episode meets you exactly where you are, not trying to fix you, not even trying to fix your emotions, but to strengthen something inside you that maybe your illness has been quietly wearing down. And P.S., I know I already mentioned the Bible here, but I'm going to be sharing some of my answers here from my own faith background, because that's where many of these lessons were shaped for in me. But these conversations are for anyone who's looking for hope and emotional resilience in the middle of a hard season. So even though I am going to be sharing maybe Bible stories or verses, I'm also going to be applying them and making recommendations that anyone can take. So I hope this blesses you. Let's dive in. All right. I feel like I've been preparing for this series for oh goodness, 3 months. It's crazy. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and wow, Siri is starting to talk to me. I don't know if you guys picked that up. Okay. I've been preparing for this, and I have high expectation. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous because I have not tried to have content like this either in a while or potentially ever, depending on how you categorize it. And so it's very different. It's going to be a little less sciencey, a little bit less, here's all the reasons you can really heal, which we have tons of those episodes. And if this is your first time and you are looking for that content, you are in the right place. I would love for you to go find it. If you want to go and find content from this podcast that's organized, for example, by symptom, like I'm dealing with constipation, where are all your constipation episodes? Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/get-the-vault, and you can download our entire podcast, all our episodes that are organized by categories. So think like IBS, constipation, acid reflux, everything's organized there. You could always, of course, just use your search bar in your podcast host to find our other episodes. But today in this series, so through March and into a little bit of April, we're going to be talking about things that I wish someone had told me or just shepherded me. And I use that word as a religious term, like shepherd, like guided me on and through when I was sick on an emotional level, because as much as I wanted answers and to not be sick anymore, I also remember very much not knowing if I just needed to adjust to like my new norm. And as much as I didn't hope that my chronic illness was going to be my new norm, I also knew that it was my current norm. It wasn't going away today. It wasn't going away tomorrow. It was my norm for as long as I could foresee. And there were things going on inside me that were very painful and chaotic, unrelated to the pain of my illness. It was emotional. And so I want to talk about some of the different lessons I learned. And even today, and probably most episodes, I'm going to be talking about stories and passages from the Bible that I took great comfort from. And so these are not like, if you've had a bad experience with the church, or you are not familiar with Christianity, or you're like, Allison, I don't know anything about the Bible, you will understand everything because I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to give you the context you need. It'll just be like you're hearing a story, like a nursery story. And the other thing is that you don't have to be a Christian to like, you'll kind of get it. They're very human stories. Just like you don't have to believe dragons exist to be, or Harry Potter exists for the story to like really impact you. So let's start off with just talking a little bit about loneliness. And actually, it's like, I'm going to get a moment on science. I'm already breaking my rule. There's science here, guys. I can't avoid it. But the science of what loneliness is. I went to a 2-day seminar this past fall with my husband. It was phenomenal. That was led by Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill, who founded Connection Codes. Phenomenal. There's a book, which is also great. The seminar is great. They're actually going to be on the podcast next week. So if you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/subscribe, and you can actually get on our email list. We'll directly email you when that episode releases. It's going to be awesome. But at that seminar, Dr. Glenn, who like Connection Codes is all about your emotions. More on that next week. But he summarizes that based on the regions of the brain that we see light up when people have emotions, there's about 8 core emotions. And when you think core emotions, think inside out. Like, that is a very accurate. Joy was one of your core emotions. Sadness is a core emotion. Fear is a core emotion. The movie's especially the first one, is very, very accurate to like scientific findings. But loneliness is one of the core emotions that they teach in the Connection Codes, to teach to identify. I guess you don't need to be taught loneliness. No one wants that. But when he was teaching on this, he said that loneliness actually lights up in the same region of the brain that pain is. And there's actually three different emotions that he says show up in the pain region. One is hurt. Hurt can be physical or emotional. So that's very interesting. There's a lot more on that in just a second. We're going to dive into that concept, and it's very important. The next one that he pulls out is sadness. Sadness, unrelated to feeling physical or emotional hurt. Sadness lights up in the hurt region of the brain, the pain region of the brain. And then loneliness also lights up in this area. And he said, based on his study, the way that he thinks of these 3 concepts, hurt, sadness, and loneliness, hurt is short term. It's really acute. Like, I got stabbed with a knife. I hurt. I stubbed my toe. That hurt. And then emotional hurt could be like, somebody said something bad about me and I learned about it. And like you feel the really immediacy of it. And there's hurt. I hurt. That's a part of their core emotion wheel. Sadness is midterm, like something like a hurt or a pain that has like it's lingering, maybe because it hurts so much that there's lingering pain, or there's just it's not going away, the problem's not resolving. There's sadness is where that comes from. But loneliness, this hit me so hard when I was in this seminar, which I wasn't even at the seminar to like only think about loneliness. It was just very poignant. Was loneliness is chronic. It is chronic pain and sadness. It's going on. It's not going away. And so when you combine chronic illness and loneliness, you get a really potent mix, because chronic illness is already chronic. There's a component, like, you are going through something that's not going away, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's made you sad, and you've been feeling pain about it. And that on its own makes it almost in the loneliness type of emotional what's going on. But practically, we're also seeing that when you are chronically ill and you're experiencing something that just enough people aren't experiencing, that they don't know what to do with it. And that even if you either get one of two responses, they care, they believe what you're going through, they want to be there for you, they are ready to listen to you and support you, but they don't get it. It's not like a mom saying to another mom, I got angry at my child again and I'm so ashamed. And the other mom's like, oh my gosh, I know, right? There's something healing. It's also healing to have like a counselor say, hey, here's some practical steps to not get angry with your child anymore, or like to that level. Perhaps we're always going to get angry with our children, as we're also going to learn from Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill next week. But maybe there's some practical things you can do to not explode, but there's something healing about somebody saying, I've had a similar human experience as you, and you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not making this up. You're not attention seeking, all these very negative things that can be sought out of us. So the first thing is someone's supportive, but they're not able to reciprocate with the I know feeling. And the second option of what you can experience is someone subtly, meaning without words, but maybe body language or things they don't say, omission, or directly somehow convey that they don't believe you're going through what you're going through. There's something about it that they just don't believe that it's real. And that's super painful. And that is definitely induces a sense of loneliness, plus other things. So, we need to, where you're at right now, you're not just going to suddenly stop your chronic illness so you can go rejoin the masses of humans, right? It'll be like, well, I'm just going to stop being chronically ill so I can feel less lonely. That's not the option right now. So what do we do with the loneliness? What I want to do for today's episode is look at two stories in the Bible. And the only reason I'm bringing the Bible up is because these were stories that I feel like I wept over, or at least like reread with like my eyeballs falling out of like my head, because they felt like what I was going through, exactly what I was going through. And I was kind of amazed that I was reading a Bible character going through it. And it was interesting to see their response. And it was even more interesting to see God's response to them. And again, I know we have a lot of listeners. If you don't believe in God, or you believe in a different God than the Judeo-Christian God, you can listen to it and you can still totally make takeaways. And I will be making some takeaways for people too, like recommendations that are not specifically go and pray or do anything like that, though that will be included too. You guys will see. But I'm going to put this, just because we're starting to create video with this content. It's not up yet, but we may eventually. I'm going to be reading from my iPad here. And I'm going to read to you these two stories, because there's just the original, like exactly how it happens. Think just like bedtime story, but like a weirdly sad bedtime story, but you'll get it. So the first story is about a man named Elijah. And if you know anything about Elijah, he does a lot of really cool things. He's considered a prophet of God. It's a very highly esteemed position, but not necessarily everyone likes you, right? Like, you're going to be saying things coming from God's mouth. And if it's like, hey, I'm not really happy with what you're doing, and you tell that to the king or queen, and they don't want to stop what they're doing, they might not really like you. So, right? Like, it's like he's doing his job. It's really cool that he's close to God, but not always making friends. And so this is one of those occasions where he has not made a friend while he was doing the right thing. And so he has this scenario where the queen of, she was not like the main ruler, but the woman married to the king of Israel, threatens Elijah after he does this amazing feat and shows the power of God. And it's this really like mountaintop experience for him. She comes and threatens him and says, if I don't kill you by tomorrow, this time, let the gods kill me. She doesn't worship the Judeo-Christian God, Yahweh, that Elijah does. And so what he does is he says, he went on a day's journey into the wilderness, and he came and sat down under a broom tree, and he prayed that he might die. And he said, it's enough. Now, Lord, take my life. And he lay and slept under the broom tree. This is not even the end of the story, but it's very interesting. His immediate reaction to what's fascinating is it's kind of right after a big win, which we're not necessarily getting in chronic illness all the time. Sometimes we do, where it feels like things are going in our way, but then like other parts of our life crash down and we're like, can anything go right? But what I want you to pay attention to is that just at just the sheer fear of what's going on, he's in a state of giving up. And that's how chronic illness can feel like. Your friends are like trying to ask you to, what's it like being sick? Or, we're not really getting it. Or your doctor's even asking you and no one's really validating you, and it sucks. And it feels like you have to explain yourself. And all you want to do is you're like, yeah, I'm just doing a good job that I showed up today. Can't I get any credit? Now I have to explain how awesome it is that I just showed up. I think Elijah's in the same spot where he's like, I just did something amazing. I'm being threatened. I'm over this. I do not want to have to keep pushing and pressing in. Here's what happens next. Suddenly an angel touches him and says, arise and eat. By the way, angels don't show up all the time in scripture. It's like, it's when important things happen. Then he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals in a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you. Does not sound like good news. So he arose, ate and drank. He went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights. This is a miracle, more or less. I mean, humans can live without food for 40 days. Water? Like, straight up miracle that God has given him this miraculous food, and walks. He literally goes from, I am too exhausted, kill me now. He's given miraculous angel delivered food and water, gets a little bit of sleep, food and water, and then God's like, here's your gift, walk for 40 days. I was always a little angry when I read this section. But I also felt that I felt like it was my experience. I felt like you get these little things where mountaintop experience, or maybe it's hope. You like read a post or hear a podcast, or you learn about a new supplement or a new practitioner, and you think they're going to be the answer. And then you do all these things to try and get better, and then they're not. They don't. Your symptoms are still there, or some of them went away, but not all of them. Whatever the scenario is, or maybe we're in this scenario where no wins have been happened, but you go through this hardship and then you're asked to do something even harder. You're like, I already went, like, can't someone make my health be easier? Can't this part get easier? So no, he already wants to die. Now he's being asked to walk 40 days in the wilderness without food and water. And he does it. Then, here's super interesting. You would think that God, I'm just telling you my take, especially when I remember what this was like reading this when I was sick. And then we're going to get to the juicy applications. The Lord comes to him. So finally, Elijah arrives at this mountain of God. And it says, the word of the Lord came to him, and God said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? I always kind of thought that was not a very welcoming. They couldn't be like, hey, good job making it here. That was a long trip. Do you want to sit down? It seems a little rude. What you doing here? Look, you told me to come here. Why am I here? But what's happening here, and what we don't see in the context, and one thing that's really helpful if you really want to study the Bible is understanding a little bit of culturally what's going on. God is asking him this question, not because God does not know why he's here, or didn't hear him ask him to kill himself, or not kill himself, but that God kill him. He's wanting to hear Elijah's heart. What is driving you to this place, Elijah? How are you? It's almost like, how are you doing? But not a give me the fake answer. It's like, give me the real answer, Elijah. So he says, I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, meaning I've been all about you. Maybe you could say I've been very zealous about my health. For the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They've torn down your altars. They've killed your prophets. Like, I've been very zealous for my health because nothing's been going right. My food doesn't sit well. I don't sleep. Doctors haven't helped. I'm alone. I alone am left, and they seek to take my life. And this is what you don't get the first time he asks him to kill him. The first time Elijah says, enough, Lord, take my life. We don't have any context. And what's beautiful about this is the Lord invites him into this really, it's a bit of a journey, but it's a very private, very intimate, caring moment where he's like, what's hurting you so much, Elijah? Why do you want me to suddenly kill you? And he's like, I'm alone. I'm alone. There's nobody else. His immediate response is he perceives he's the only prophet left that cares. The only prophet left that loves the Lord and is standing up for what's right. There was some evil things going on. It wasn't just about worshiping other gods. Evil things, killing people, killing children. It was not okay. And when I say killing, I mean sacrifice, right? Just not good things. And he says, the children of Israel have forsaken you, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets. Meaning anybody who was for you is dead. And I'm alone. He's not even upset. Like, he's not even afraid of dying. The primary thing is I alone am left, and they seek to take my life. It's like, I have nowhere safe to go. There's no one. And isn't that what we feel when we're chronically ill? Isn't that what you're feeling? I alone am left. And nobody's on my side, or nobody's quite on my side. And it sucks, but maybe you experience this too. I even felt frustrated that people who I knew were on my side, my husband, some certain friends, they just almost couldn't be on my side enough. And that was hard because I wish it felt like enough, but I had to acknowledge, like, I still have to explain myself to them. They still can't say, oh my gosh, I know what you're going through. So here's how God responds. Go out and stand before the mountain of the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rock to pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. Then, after the wind was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. So it was when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his clothing, and went out to the entrance of the cave. And suddenly a voice came to him and said, what are you doing here, Elijah? Same question, right? The same, not like, hey, you idiot, what you doing here? It's like, where's your heart? What's going on? What's hurting inside? What's driven you here out to the wilderness, seeking me? And he says the exact same thing. I've been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets. I alone am left. I always found this interesting that he asked him twice. Almost part of me thinks, like, maybe this is really good counseling. Sometimes you say something once, you think that's your problem. Like, oh, I'm really frustrated about this, but really it's like something deeper. Like, no, he's really clear on what his problem is. He's feeling really alone. And here's a confirmation that aloneness is his main issue. This is how the Lord responds to him next. Then the Lord said to him, go, return on your way to the wilderness to Damascus. And when you arrive, anoint a new guy to be king. Also, go and anoint a new person to be king in a different area, Israel. So one was king for Syria, one for Israel. Then Elisha, the son of another man, you shall anoint as prophet in your place. So that's 3 people he's going to meet, 3 people he's going to anoint, 1 who's going to take his job. It shall be that whoever escapes the sword of these 2 kings, or rather, he then says, interesting thing, whoever escapes the sword of one of these kings, that Elisha is going to kill, or the second king will kill. Whoever escapes the second king, Elisha will kill. So he's kind of saying, here's my plan to clean up all these people who want to kill you, and all these unbelieving, evil people, all the people who aren't supporting you, basically. Now, I'm not saying God's promising to kill the people who don't want to support you, but I will give you some practical tips. And then he says, yet I have reserved 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal or Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. Meaning, he's like, He literally saves to the last sentence. He's like, by the way, there's 7,000 other people just like you who have been true to me. So his initial sentence of saying, I alone am left, is like, it's emotionally true. He's been doing a lot of things on his own. These people are probably somewhat in hiding. He emotionally feels alone. He maybe has practically been alone, but he's not actually alone. And that's one thing that's interesting, even with this podcast, even with me sharing this. I was on a group coaching call right before recording this, and we were all in tears because I gave them a little exhortation, coaching, and I shared a little bit from this series I'm going to be doing on emotional health with chronic illness. And we were all in tears, and it was so cathartic. We all got it. Everyone who shared a response to what I had been sharing was nodding. Everyone was nodding. And one person's in the UK and another person's, I actually don't know where everyone was, but we have clients in Virginia and California and Australia, and we're all on the call and we're all nodding and getting it. And it's cathartic. It's cathartic that none of us have to explain ourselves. We all have slightly different symptoms. Some of us have very similar symptoms for sure, but no one's like, what is it like to be fatigued all the time? What is it like to not know how you're going to feel the rest of the day? What is it like to feel like one task takes all your energy? What is it like to feel hopeless? Like maybe you'll never be done with this or safe in your body again. We all get it. And the Lord says that in this passage. There's actually a bunch of people. And that's actually true. So it's not to say, he doesn't say, there's no reason to be lonely. He just encourages him. He's like, hey, you're less lonely than you think. You're less alone. And actually, probably some of the feelings and frustrations you're feeling, I'm hearing from other people too. 7,000 of them. He gives them it's not like a super exact, 7,821. But I mean, it's not like, oh, there's some of them out there. It's 7,000. He's paying attention to those people, those 7,000. So his response is, I'm going to give you some people on your side. I'm going to give you 2 kings. I'm going to give you a prophet who basically is he hangs out with him for a bunch of years before Elijah leaves and heads off. So he's an apprentice. I'm going to give you 2 kings to replace the bad ones. I'm going to give you an apprentice, and I'm going to remind you that there's 7,000. I'm going to let you know there's actually 7,000 people in your court. All right. I know that was a long story, but I want to pair it with another story in the Bible before we do the big debrief of somebody else who asks God to kill them because they're frustrated. Like not just frustrated, like a little frustrated, like they've hit a wall. They're like, I'm done with this. And I'm not by any means saying any of you guys with chronic illness, like, are at the point of contemplating death or anything. You might. I'll just be super honest. And I'm sorry if that's triggering. Maybe I might put like a little, I think I should actually put like a little warning on this. So you might have already come across this in the episode by now, but just the severity of what these very human people are going through. And I say that just because I think sometimes we perceive, if you're a Christian, you know these names, you're like, oh, these awesome dudes who did really cool things. You're like, yeah, do you remember the part when they were like, didn't really care how awesome they were? They were so frustrated and just overwhelmed and lonely and just exhausted. They wanted God to kill them. And they're like, hey, God, best friend, buddy, please kill me. So there's another person who does it. He's also a big name. His name is Moses. Let's go to Numbers 11. That's where we find this passage. This is much shorter, just a few sentences. Sorry, guys. So the context here is, I'm just going to read it because the context is pretty clear here in the passage. Then Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, everyone at the door of his tent. Remember, everyone's at the door of his tent. Sorry. I'm reversing here. So what happened is that basically the people of Israel are complaining that they don't have food to eat, that's yummy. They're just complaining. It's a big issue that happens, that the Lord provides for the Israelites in the middle of the wilderness, water or food, and repeatedly they find something to complain about, which is superhuman, by the way. But Moses is responsible for all of them. And these are millions of people. Like, I don't know if people are familiar when there was the Exodus. It wasn't a few 100,000, which would already be a lot of people. It was millions, like probably closer to 5 million. It might be more than that, but if I remember my education, my history class from college, on this, I believe it was something close to 5 million, but I'm so sorry if any of you guys know the more accurate number. So just know it's like a ton of people. So they're complaining, they're frustrated about a food situation here. And it says, Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families. Everyone was at the door of his tent. And then the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused, and Moses was displeased. So Moses said to the Lord, why have you afflicted your servant? Why have I not found favor in your sight that you have laid the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive these people? Meaning like, did I beget them? Did I give birth to them that you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a guardian carries a nursing child? I just realized I'm in the New King James Version. Guys, I don't usually read in this version. I'm so sorry if I've been confusing anyone. I'm switching to the ESV if anyone knows. Did I conceive all these people? Did I give birth to them that they should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries a nursing child to the land you swore to give to their fathers? Where am I to get meat for all these people? They wanted meat. They were tired of manna. For they weep before me and say, give us meat that we may eat. I am not able to carry all these people alone. The burden is too heavy for me. If you will treat me like this, he's talking to God now. If you'll treat me like this, kill me at once. If I find favor in your sight, that I may not see my wretchedness. He's kind of talking about like my own like powerlessness. Very interesting. It's a different tipping point. The thing that's bothering him isn't chronic illness per se, but it's a burden. The emotions are so similar. I'm not able to carry this alone. There's also loneliness. Hear that? Alone. He feels alone. The burden falls on him. And that is kind of his like tipping point, and his response is, kill me now. Can you see how like how deeply we feel this in our hearts, that when we're alone, when we really feel no one gets me, no one can help me, especially both of these men, Moses and Elijah, there was a component of help. There was a component of no one gets me. No one else cares about the same things I care about. That was Elijah. No one cares about the Lord the way I care them. I'm the only one left. But there's also no one can help me. There's no one else fighting these very evil kings. There's no one else who's going to give meat to these very hungry millions of people. And it makes them want to give up. Here's the Lord's response. Then the Lord said to Moses, gather for me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be elders of the people and officers. Bring them to the tent of meeting and let them take their stand there with you. I will come down and talk with you there, and I will take some of the Spirit, he's talking about the Holy Spirit, that's on you, and put it on them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, so that you may not bear it alone. Was really interesting. He needs to feed the meat, or at least that's what they're asking for. But the main issue is not that they want meat. I mean, it kind of is, because he's like, I don't know where to get all this meat for 5 million people in the middle of a desert. But what the Lord does is he hears them. He doesn't say, hey, like, stop complaining, fool. He's like, yeah, that sucks. I'm actually kind of mad on your behalf. Let me help you. Let me give you some people. So here's the practical things. Unrelated. You're not Moses. You're not Elijah. You're just you listening to this podcast. God bless you. Hearing me wax eloquent, maybe for some of the longest stories in the Bible you've heard ever. But here's what I recommend. This is my takeaways from when I was reading these passages as a sick person, and I would just read them because I felt like there was something more there. I'm like, there's something here. There's something here that a lesson that I need to learn. And as I stewed over it, this is what came to mind, and it helped. It made a difference. So here's what I recommend for you. Number 1, be real with yourself, with others, and with God. And there is a little bit of especially with the others part, but just start with being real. Like these people, Elijah and Moses, the first thing they did not like, oh, it's kind of been a hard day. Like, I'm a little frustrated. They're like, no, it's going down. I'm pissed. I'm sad. I'm freaked out. I'm over it. I'm at my wit's end. I want to be done with this. Like, not just like take a nap done, but like death done. Like they're really done. They're really done. And so just be real. You can do that. And that maybe some of that's journaling. Take a moment and you could write down general things like, these are emotions I'm feeling. I'm just like start writing down like any word you can think of for emotions, or scenarios that have been grieving you. Like, this happened at the doctor's office today. I had this conversation with my mom on the phone. My employer said blank or implied blank, or I'm worried about blank. Like, just get it out, dump it. Just let it be real, let it be there. Even if no one else is available to hold it, your journal can hold it for you. And there is actual scientific evidence that can help. And if you don't have a journal, a piece of paper. If you don't have a piece of paper that's blank or anything, find the back of like a receipt. Just like get it out. So be real. When I say yourself, with others, with God, some components. Yourself is a journal prompt. With others, find safe people. Now, unfortunately, this is not always going to be the people we already know. So our mothers, our fathers, our children, our spouse, our partners, siblings, friends. You could I just have had clients where when I've talked with them, like, you are in a bit of like there is an emptiness to it. Like there's a vacuum of safe people. So I'm not saying, oh, pretend something's there, but you might. So like if you have anyone, even if it's one person, just identify on that same piece of paper, write down anyone you're like, hey, they might not be sick, but they are safe. They don't devalidate me. They're willing to listen. They don't try to fix my problems and say, hey, did you just try this one probiotic? Though some people might still do that. You could decide if they're safe or not. But just think someone who you're like, I might not always feel like they get everything, but they definitely don't like devalidate me. Those are my parameters for safe people. Have a list. If you don't have a list, or it's smaller than you want it to be, I also really highly recommend find a counselor. And this is like a hit or miss, like what the counselor should be or what their strengths could or should be. But just even generally, counselors that can help with are familiar with anxiety, depression, I do think it's now like a thing to find like chronic illness therapists. That can be a really great place to start, because at least they hopefully are trained and like things to avoid saying, so they don't say some dumb stuff that other people have said to you. They can be a container for hearing your emotions and make you feel validated. Counselors, another big benefit to them, they also might be able to recommend safe spaces to go. Like they might know support groups in your area if they're a plugged in counselor, which is pretty awesome. So those could be like a really good first place. But some of my takeaways when I remember reading this is like, I do think I need people. I just need to do it slightly differently. And it's not all on me. Like, unfortunately, like, and sometimes it was just me and my journal. I'll kind of go back to that first point. If it just felt like my friends weren't available, sometimes they were safe people, but like they were out of town or they were busy or whatever was going on. They like yourself, you are your own, like in many ways, you and a journal and maybe some music, they can be your own resources. But same with finding a counselor. If you're like alone and don't have any friends or family to support you, spend some time on your phone or computer researching counselors in your area, or even that you can see virtually, who specialize maybe even in chronic illness. And then another place you could find support, like relationally in this loneliness season, is just a health professional who should definitely not be replacing a counselor. I always tell my clients, like, I'm not a counselor, but like, I want to be able to give you any benefits of like emotional support as possible. Just a health professional who's able to hold a small role in validating you and hearing you. So this can be hard because you might not be able to find that health professional in a hospital setting. They might not have enough time to just be able to give you like the emotional space to be heard. Also, some health professionals will devalidate you and just say, they'll suggest it's all in your head or whatever it is. I've heard everything. So, I mean, either for myself or for what doctors have told my clients. So, but if you do find a health professional, and I would believe that I could say for some of my clients, I've been that person who, aside from working with them to actually help them end their chronic illness, is also able to say, hey, before anything's even fixed, I see you. Yeah, I feel you. You're not crazy. You're not making this up. This is not your fault. This is not all in your head. You're really having all these issues. You don't have to be on laxatives the rest of your life. There is a better way. And that was just like balm to their soul. And so, super powerful. The next two are really interesting though, because they're less about the people. They're more a little bit back to you. Show up for support you've been offered. Meaning, that's a better way to put it is be willing to receive it. There are people in your life, potentially. Everybody's a little different. But I knew that this was true for me, especially like my husband, for example. There are people in your life who are willing to support you. They're able. They desire to support you. And support can look different. It depends on, like, sometimes people will say, can I bring you a meal? Do you want a friend to be with you right now? Sometimes they're like if they've ever offered you support, but you haven't followed up on it. You haven't said, hey, this Thursday, or hey, let's go get coffee. If you've never followed up on it, be willing to receive that. Or if someone offers it and you can be like, oh yeah, I said, oh no, it's fine. Because you don't want to seem or feel needy, even though inside you're like, oh, I'm super needy. I'm chronically ill. Right? Be willing to receive. This is really hard because I think as women, I think it happens to men too, but especially for women, we're trained to always be givers, to always be solution providers, which can be a beautiful thing. I mean, being a giver is psychologically helpful, but when you're chronically ill, there's only so much you could give, and you might have already gave out everything by noon, right? It's all given. All the given that I can do has been given. And so being willing to receive is very humbling. It can be very difficult if there's pride, or if and I don't mean pride in like you're like some icky thing, like you're, oh my gosh, the first thing that came to me was, from Belle and Gaston. Gaston's like super proud. Like, you're not like, I'm not saying you're like puffed up and like walking around like you all are idiots compared to me, but something that says I have integrity wrapped, not integrity. I have personal worth wrapped up in like being self-sufficient actually, but that's where you can find connection. And that's something you can work through with a counselor if that's a really hard topic for you. So kind of loops this a little bit back into receiving others, but being willing to receive, it can be one of the blocks to like, I don't want to say exiting loneliness, but like progressing and feeling less lonely can actually be part of you really resists receiving. And I think if you are one of those people, you probably are feeling it right now. If you're not, maybe it's a little bit more of a question mark, or it's honestly something probably a lot of us can work on. I know I can work on it. There's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally did not receive that person. I can literally think of one person right now who's like, hey, I'll watch your kids. As someone at my church, hey, I'll watch your kids for like a morning or an afternoon if you just need some time alone at some point. And I'm like, I should probably go and take my own advice. So I'm probably going to go do that after this. But the last thing here, so, we've said, be real, find safe people, gave some tips, start with a counselor or look for a health professional. Next, be willing to receive. The last one is be willing to ask. Again, you want to do it with safe people, but there have been times, my husband is a very safe person for me, generally. So meaning like he's human too. He sometimes needs his own space. But when I was chronically ill, like he never was like, you're making all this up, or like, you just want attention, or anything that like I know some people would experience. So this is possibly not true, but some of you listening, your spouses or partners are very supportive and they want to be there for you. And it can be hard to ask, hey, could you empty the dishwasher for me? Could you pass the remote to me? I'm thinking of like really small practical things. Could you move the laundry machine? Just so you don't have to get up. Just so you can conserve your energy a little bit more, because later you are going to get up. You're going to get yourself a shower. You're going to get in bed. You're going to email somebody you need to email. You're going to be doing something. hey, could you just do that thing? Could you rub my shoulders? Could you rub my feet? There's a verse in the Bible that, I'm not going to read the whole section to you, but just to paraphrase, you have not because you ask not. It's in the New Testament, and it's interesting because the context is, it's not Jesus, I believe it's the Apostle Paul, where he's saying the reason that there's fights among you is because you're all just trying to grab each other's stuff, and so you feel like you have enough. And he's like, the reason you don't have enough is not because somebody else has more than you. It's because you don't ask for it. And this is in the context of more of a spiritual lesson of him talking about our relationship with God. But it's also very practical. Like, if you don't ask the server for another thing of fries, they don't know, they can't read minds. They don't know you want another basket of fries. There might be some things that they're actively going to look out for, like, do you have enough water and stuff? But sometimes even then you have to ask. And so if you don't have something at a server, at a restaurant, sometimes it's because you haven't asked. And so it's the same in life. Like, is there any chance that you're feeling lonely because you haven't asked, hey, like, maybe you have a friend who's really kind and, like, loves you, and you know they love you. Maybe they don't live in your city. I'm thinking of someone in my city. My brain automatically thinks of who loves me. Who do I know loves me? And if I'm having a hard time, do they know to try and talk to me if I don't tell them? Or even ask them, hey, are you free sometime this week to chat on the phone for a little bit? I really miss you. I'm having a hard time. It'd be nice to chat with you. Sometimes it can be really hard because it's like, oh, they're busy, or it's going to be such a downer or whatever. But just think, like, if you knew you had a friend who is struggling and they told you, how honored would you feel? How loved? Now, you might feel a little overwhelmed because if you, like, in a very realistic sense, it's possible you might feel overwhelmed if you are already like, I can't even help them. But then there's also possible you might be like, oh, someone else is having a hard time too. I'm not alone. Maybe they would even feel less alone because maybe they're having a hard time. Maybe you both need each other. So just know that, like, you can ask a friend, ask a spouse, ask your parents, ask a sibling, whoever you have a relationship who's a safe person. You can ask them. And if you are a person of faith, even if it's not Christianity, but you believe in a God or something that can respond, and that's a part of your faith, ask God for how he wants to provide for you and who he wants to be for you, because I guarantee he does. And I say that as a strong Christian believer. Even if you're not a Christian, God wants to provide for you. Even if you don't know how you feel about God, or you're even slightly or majorly pissed at him right now. I was pissed at him so much, and I told him, I'm so mad, I'm sick. Why am I sick? Can't you help me get out of this? And coincidentally, he did. I'm on the other side of it now. But it wasn't a miracle. It wasn't just like, oh, here you go, God. I do think that happens for people. But there's a lot of clients that I worked with who are also have faith, and maybe even specifically Christian, and their way that they heal is also a little bit more on the science side of things and less on the miracle side. God works both ways. He can work both ways. And so that's another person you can ask, and you can be specific, you can be vague. Hey, I really asked that. I can remember one time I asked a friend at church to pray for me for healing, and I really felt like I should. It was very weird because my like most of my symptoms I felt on the front of my body, so my belly, just top to bottom, the whole thing. But I had this sense of like, hey, I really feel like you're supposed to pray for my back, or like pray with your hand touching my back. And she did, and nothing crazy happened. Nothing changed in that moment. But you know what? I remember that day, and the reason why is because like 3 or 4 years later, I was in a anatomy class studying visceral manipulation, and they were showing us how the small intestines, which is part of your gut, right? It's part of how you digest, attaches to the back wall of your abdomen, which is actually basically your back. It's your spine. It goes right across your lumbar spine, as well as many other important things in the back of your body, like your kidney ureters and stuff. But I remember that day when I learned that, and I thought, my back didn't hurt. There was nothing wrong with my back at that moment, And I was like, I think I walked in faith that there's something connection between the back and the abdomen. And I intuited it in my spirit. And I'm walking in that belief. I'm walking in that belief and faith I chose to have by learning now what the anatomy is and like being healed of it. And so that is it. This is my episode on loneliness. I really hope it helps someone. If anything, like literally maybe do nothing. Do none of these things if you don't have the energy for it. This is not a list of shoulds or by any means, but maybe you feel a little less lonely to hear my story, hear the story of two men in the Bible who had no chronic illness, but definitely wanted, just like they hit a wall. You're not the only person. Just hearing more stories. And I just want to invite anyone who's like listening right now, if you're looking for a community for support emotionally and practically, that is something that we are cultivating inside of our Better Belly coaching program. When you join the Better Belly Blueprint, you have the opportunity to add on group coaching as a part of the way that you can just get support as you go through the curriculum. And the curriculum's all like focuses primarily on like practical steps and ways to heal through, knowing what labs to test yourself with, getting the lab tests, analyzing the lab test yourself, then creating protocols based off of protocol templates that are unique to your unique lab results. Like that is all a part of this. But additionally, like outside of the curriculum, we have a Facebook group and biweekly live group coaching calls where you can meet with people, and you're there maybe to ask a question to the coach, but there's other people on the call who are just like you. And we literally just had a beautiful call today of us getting to chat. And yeah, we answered people's questions about how their medications may or may not interact with the protocols, or how to do like referrals for certain types of things. If there's anybody we knew, like we talked about all sorts of stuff, but we also talked about the matters of the heart, and there was tears in everybody's eyes at the end. So if you're just looking for a place to support people who are like, yeah, I know what you're going through, I would say come to our group. So if you want to join the Better Belly Blueprint, which is the curriculum, and then add on group coaching, go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint and you can join today. Would love to support you there. Like that's the place to be. So that is it for today. If you loved today's episode, please be sure to subscribe in your podcast host, or go and subscribe to the email to get the notification, because all the weeks coming up are going to be amazing. We're going to be dealing with more of the matters of the heart here, and starting with next week with Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill from the Connection Code. So I love you guys all so much. The only reason I'm doing this podcast is because I was there and I was alone, and I was like, can I ever get better? Who else is dealing with these things? This podcast episode, honestly, is a manifestation. That'd be super weird with that word, but like it's a fulfillment. It's a fulfillment of aches of my heart that started in 2015, over 10 years ago. So that's it. I'll see you guys next week, I hope, for our awesome session with Dr. Glenn and Phyllis Hill. Bye.